Good evening, televiewers. Welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. This evening, we're going to be looking at what is happening in the Northwest and Southwest regions following the killings, continuous killings, especially after the killing of the regional delegate for penitentiary administration alongside some collaborators in Kumbu some days back, and we know that we saw the houses of some Bororo men burned down in the subdivision. We have had a record of other violent activities in the Northwest and Southwest region. So we are asking the question that while these killings and destructions are ongoing, the world is just watching what is happening, what is not going right. Why is the world not showing so much interest as to wanting to stop what is happening in here? Also, we are going to be looking at who benefits from the ongoing conflicts in the Southwest and Northwest region. How do we stop the tap from flowing so that those who are benefiting from it actually stop from fueling the crisis for the interest of the population of the Southwest and Northwest region, and why not the national interest of Cameroon? We are discussing this with panelists who are supposed to be here. Two of them are already here. Barrister Achu Julius is in the house with us representing the CPDM party. Good evening, Barrister. You have been away from Prime Hour for some time. We're glad to have you again.
Thank you, Mr. Kum, for inviting me today. I've been absent because I've not been invited. You know, I always respond positively whenever I'm invited. That said, this topic is so important that I thought I've done everything possible to be a member of this panel, and I want to thank you for accepting me to come today. Okay.
We also in the company of Dr.Michael and Ndimancho. He lectures in some of our higher institutions, universities across Cameroon. Good evening, Dr. Welcome.
Thanks so much, Mr. Leo. It's a pleasure to be here, and most importantly, it's a pleasure to be first of all to the senior barrister. It's always a pleasure. And of course, he's an indefatigable man, a man who dies but never surrenders. And I think that it is going to be a wonderful discourse this evening to be able to x-ray, to enlighten people on some of the news-making events around our country, Cameroon, our dear country, Cameroon.
We also are going to be expecting the arrival into our studios of Dr. Achu, as well as Apostle Ambe, Valentine, Ngwa. And to you, Carlson, Ayaba, I don't know whether you are available. Good evening, Carlson. Ayaba is not yet there. We will start with you. By statue, Julius, not very good information. The pictures, videos that we are getting from the Southwest and Northwest are not too appealing. We are saddening to say that things are not really good.
Yes, Leonard, things have not been very good since 2016. You know, personally, I saw this coming.
Okay.
But when it comes to start to fight a war that you don't know what it's all about, that has no organization, that has no central command, that has no financial constraints, no obligations, that has no meaning. It ends up becoming some chaotic stuff that nobody can describe. And it becomes an anti-people thing at the end of the day, because what we are witnessing is no war. We are witnessing carnage, destruction, killing of individuals, vendettas, revenge, hatred, thuggery, armed robbery. That's what we are witnessing. So we have just destroyed our society by thinking that we can fight a war without knowing what the meaning of a war is. That's the real thing. What we find on the ground, what is very disheartening and saddening, that a fellow Cameroonian or a fellow Anglophone will meet his own brother and kill in cold blood. Not that there was even exchange of fire or fighting. No, you just take a fellow human being and shoot until the person dies. You make sure he dies, And I saw tires on one of them. I'm sure they wanted to bend the cups or something. So it has now become something you and me cannot describe. I have the feeling that the devil has come into it. And when you see those type of things, they're doing your rituals and not fighting for some ideology or some idea or some occupation or some territory. It is just total chaos with thieves roaming the streets with guns. That's what I see. And it's going to be worse than this because these are the first stages. This is the first stage of thieves that we're going to have. We're going to have many more because as the ground is being prepared for those thieves to come in, many more will come from all around the world to see that, hey, this is fertile ground for what we want, and will come here, and it's going to be worse than this. So we have to be very careful.
We have to be very careful, Dr. Michael and Ndimancho. How do we understand that more than 5 years into what we are living, properties, persons are still being killed and destroyed?
Of course, you know, the war had a goal, Mr. Leo. This war had a goal. And even though the goal has been defeated, it seems to me that there were some people in high waters who were wanted to act like world fish, you know, just open their mouth, or I call the sharks, just open their mouth. They're waiting for this thing to escalate so that they just swallow and they take it upon themselves. It is like there was somebody beating a drum somewhere not far from the bush and was just waiting for this thing to take over. Because I do not see an image of 2016, teachers 2016. I do not see the image of the lawyers 2016 in this thing. Because in no way did I ever hear that a teacher took a gun, and was like going to be a force of argument. I did not see in any way a lawyer took a gun and was like, was going to force, his aspiration, his desire on a particular group of people or on the government. But immediately this happened and the teachers and the lawyers gave way. It was as if there was somebody somewhere just waiting to take over. Was it a planned act? Sometimes we ask rhetorical questions. Was it a planned act that some people lured the lawyers and the teachers into this kind of a situation in order to take over? Sometimes we start asking some questions. And it's just that today, we should go above the questions and look for solutions. Because we understand that, when you respond evil by evil, you are only escalating more evil for yourselves. And that is why sometimes it is not even right to go back to the image of 2016, because there is no rationale. When you go back and you want to study from there up to now, you don't even see any similarity about what is happening. Then you begin to ask yourself, well, what is really happening? Now you understand that there are people in this world with different agendas, and their agendas are thriving through as far as the Anglophone community is concerned. And now today, we as a civil society, we are sending a message across, and we are saying that this thing is not what was meant in 2016, and that there are some people who have taken the Anglophone community hostage, and that the Anglophone community needs to rise up and rise up above them. Because I cannot imagine how a whole human being, if it is not somebody who has sold his brain, you take a cutlass and you are cutting somebody's head and you are singing and you are talking and praising yourself for cutting somebody's head, a whole human being. Then that, there is that kind of fright, there's that fear that some of us who watch the video, we begin to ask yourself, and then you ask yourself, who is the kind of person who can talk to these kind of people who have already, gone to this level of radicalization, and that you have gone out of humane behavior. You have become sadists, that you kill and you laugh and then you brandish to the whole world. Now you already see that even these people who claim to be the Amazonian, they know that their cause is defeated. Because if their cause is not defeated, how would you do this and you expect a world support? That you slaughter somebody in public and then you show the video to the whole world and you are expecting the world to support you. It's not insanity. This is insanity, because if you are expecting support because in a world of legitimacy, you commit an act and then you blame it on the other person. You commit an act and shield it. You hide the act and then you blame it on the other person. But this one that people commit in daylight, they film it, show it the whole world, and then you are expecting the UN and whosoever to come and be able to support them. We are lost in all of these things, and we are asking, where are we heading to? The Maya? Escape is not going to be our way out.
Okay, the situation appears very complex, because it's going to be difficult to actually give answers, to provide answers to what is happening. But how did we get to this level, Barrister?
First and foremost, the Anglophones in Cameroon had a feeling of belonging, which caused a stir. All of us agreed on that. We were not in agreement with certain things that were going on in the country, which is okay. But you see, way back in 2016, when the lawyers and the teachers started this uproar, they didn't know that, as Dr. Ndimancho has just said, that there were people waiting for an opportunity to do justice. And what happened? As the opportunity came, they pushed the teachers and the lawyers aside and took up guns. That was the worst thing that has ever happened to this country. It's better to criticize and lay a complaint than to take up guns and think you can fight a war when you have no logistics. When they took up these guns, so many people distanced themselves from them. And as time was going on, it became a problem which is different from the Anglophone problem. Because you know the Anglophone problem is very different from the Ambazonia problem. And what some of us have noticed is that what these Ambazonia people have started is going to be an anti-people thing in this, at the end of the day. Because what they think they're going to protect is what they're going to destroy. That's what some of us have been saying for a long time, and that's what is happening. So because of destruction, I think the devil has got into this thing. Because let me tell you something. Of all whatever human beings can create or fabricate, nobody can make blood. So once you spill a human being's blood, be careful. The reaction is going to be very, very different in your brain, in your mindset. Just imagine you cut your finger and blood starts flowing, you say, hey. It's not only the pain, but the fact that you see blood, you know there's something wrong. And I'm sure that is where God has his own secret. Because nobody has succeeded in this world to make blood. Blood is something which is so natural, it can only come from God. And when once you see somebody who decides to spill that blood unnecessarily, not as self-defense, not as a protection, not for a good ideology, no, it is just for the devil. So what I'm saying is that what is going on now is no longer fighting for liberation or fighting for whatever. These guys are adepts of the devil. They are worshipping the devil, and they are bringing that practice of the devil into Cameroon. When they say Odeshi, people think it's a joke. For those who have gone to Nigeria, know what that means. It is the devil incarnate. And once you become that, you go towards the direction, just know that people will die. And that's what's going on. And people are dying innocently. What did those warders do to merit what happened to them on their way? They did nothing. They just had to kill them, and they were cutting their necks in front of people and being happy about doing it. You think, is that normal? Even someone is on drugs. Those drugs, we know people smoke marijuana and take drugs. They can't behave like that. But you know, it is something much more beyond that what is going on now. And it is a consequence. It is a consequence of taking up arms to fight a war you cannot fight, first of all. Because those who were frustrated in the fights, most of them are run away. Or in the rehabilitation centers, as the government gave the open way that, okay, please, drop your guns, we'll forget about it, go to the centers. Most of them are going to those centers, or they escape from the country. Those who are there now, doing what they're doing, are not people who are fighting in the same spirit in 2016, 2017, 2018, but they are fighting as adepts for the devil. I can tell you. Okay.
Now, what I want us to actually understand is, so explain, is how did we get to where we are? We know how this whole issue evolved from 2016, 2017, 2018 to observing what we are now seeing in our towns and villages in the northwest and southwest.
Yes, there were some steps that led us to this, Mr. Liu. We understand that in every household there's bound to be problems. And one of the things that makes a father in a household is the way that he handles a problem between the children. And we understand that the problem that in Cameroon, of course, it is not a problem that started in 2016. This is a way far back problem that started. But the strategy of solving this problem has been wrong. And we realized that, you understand, we thought that we have some mechanism or some bodies, especially the international community, that could be able to assist us to solve this problem. But we failed in these, our thought. I also thought that an organ like the UN, you remember that on the 7th of October 2017, the UN Secretary General, Guterres, came to Cameroon. And he came to Cameroon on the invitation of the President of Cameroon because of the Anglophone crisis. And before coming to Cameroon in October, on the 27th of October, he had met with the President of Cameroon at UN General Assembly in September that very year, 2007. And they had discussed about the issue of the Anglophone crisis. I remember that day that the UN Secretary General came to Cameroon. I was in Bamenda. And on that particular day, it was an exceptionally what they called a lockdown or ghost town in the town of Bamenda, because they knew that the UN Secretary General was coming. And for them, it was a savior that was coming to be able to strike a deal concerning the Anglophone crisis. I'm telling you, the whole of the Bamenda town was paralyzed on the 22nd of October 2017. And unfortunately for them, what happened is that their expectations were not met. It appears as if the UN Secretary General came and nothing was felt. They exchanged their gifts in the Unity Palace and he left. As if that was not all. From the 26th to the 28th of November 2019, we had 3 dignitaries that came to Cameroon. And before these 3 dignitaries, I remember that in 2017, on the 18th of December 2017, the Commonwealth Secretary General, Patricia Scotland, came to Cameroon. That was still 2017 in December, on the 18th precisely. And she had a 4-day working session from the 18th to the 22nd. And we thought that she was coming to strike a deal about this thing. But Patricia Scotland came and we didn't have any feeling about a kind of a dignity. We know the kind of relationship that the Anglophone region or Cameroon has with the Commonwealth. This one came and passed. In 2019, I remember it's from the 26th to the 28th of November 2019, we had 3 important dignitaries that came to Cameroon. We had Patricia Scotland, again, who came. We had Musa Faki of the AU, the chairperson of the AU, and we have Luis Moshikiwaba of the Francophonie, who came to Cameroon. 3 dignitaries of world governing bodies, important bodies, who came. And they were all high expectation that if what one person couldn't do, at least 3 people will come and consult and they will do. To our greatest chagrin, they came and started singing the praises of the national dialogue. They came and started talking about the issue of decentralization. They came and started talking about regional. I mean, people got confused about the whole thing. I'm giving this panoramic view of events that have helped to de-escalate the situation in the Northwest and Southwest region. Because, and of course, it added to the fact that Anglophones thought, and they thought wrongly, that when schools will not go for about some months, they are going to have what they call l'année blanche. And of course, that didn't happen. Now you realize that there were a series of issues, expectations that were not met. And there, people began to understand that they are supposed to go on their own. And going on their own, there was no clear-cut way for people to go on their own. And let me tell you, the highest mistake of going on their own was the fact that Anglophones have not been able to have a concerted action to be able to go on their own. Because I understand that if they had a concerted action, they would have been able to come up with something that would be human. I mean, it would not be this killing that we are having today. Remember that when we talk about terrorism, as it is happening now, as many have alleged that it's happening in the Northwest and Southwest region, we are distinguishing between 3 types of terrorism. We have what we call a revolutionary terrorism. We have a sub-revolutionary terrorism. And we have an establishment terrorism. But what is going on now in the Northwest and Southwest region that we thought was something like a sub-revolutionary terrorism, which of course was practiced with the ANC in South Africa, is not what is happening now in Cameroon. Because in South Africa, the ANC actually pulls this kind of what they call a terrorist action. And mind you too, when we say one man's terrorist is an anonymous liberation fighter. Let us be able to know this. So Anglophones thought that in taking up this act, terrorist as we call it, because terrorism, as I said, terrorism no more than negative, because some people see it as liberation. People were going to support them, but they forgot that
in actually doing this, they went beyond the norms. What is the result of terrorism? Terrorism is to create fear. When you create fear, now the people now come back to support you. But the kind of fear that the Anglophones have created, and they are expecting the support from the people, has been very, very down. Okay. And now let me just shoot what we say. Let's not shoot it. Now I understand that the greatest thing that has happened that is not in favor of Anglophone crisis is the fact that the Anglophone elite abandoned the cause. And when did they abandon the cause? They abandoned the cause when they started actions on schools. When children started being killed as they were going to school, when they started burning schools, the Anglophone elite turned their backs on them, and now they took the advantage. Instead of seeing that as a disadvantage for them, that they have no support, they took the advantage and made themselves the lords of the land. And this is where we are today, and the lords have continued to go on and on.
I beg to differ very much from him. Because he's using the word we. He's using the word we. What does he mean by we? He doesn't say I, because you represent nothing and nobody but yourself. Don't mix up Anglophones in this what you are saying. It is you, maybe.
It depends on what you mean by my we, barrister. It depends on what you mean by my we.
I'm an Anglophone elite too. Yeah. I was not there with you. I've never been in that thing. You alone. Say I was there.
But I understand that people are you and not even going to Nowhere Sound for 10 years. So you cannot even represent the Anglophone voice.
Who told you I'm not gone?
No, you're not gone. That I know. That I know.
Are you gone?
Yeah, of course.
Everybody told
I just given analysis here.
Let me tell you something
about the events that I live live.
Please, I was not talking. Listen to me. I listened to you. That's why I said, look.
When you start warning people on the panel, it is only the moderator that has to warn and say, listen to me.
I'm not wanting to. I'm not wanting.
So, I said, except you want to take arms to on the panel. If you want to take arms to on the panels,
on the phone, I mix themselves up in this rubbish of not respecting people. That's how we are. That's what we have become now. You're saying we. This man has never even gone in an election, even in the classroom, to represent him in a class. But he said we. He's talking on behalf of a whole Anglophone elite. As if somebody asked him to come and represent Anglophone elite. Please, let's be very careful. When we are saying things, we should be very careful. We are so many of us, the Anglophone elite. I cannot talk on behalf of people I don't know, or people who never asked me to talk on their behalf. I can talk on behalf of my party, but I'm telling you that we are very many in the CPDM who said no to this rubbish. And
in the CPDM, that's
so
right.
You should know that's why I'm here. You represent nobody except yourself.
No, I'm a civil society and have a great following behind me. If you think I represent nobody, maybe
organized and legal organization that has an objective and that has a direction. Yeah. Which one is yours?
Okay. Mine has a direction. That's what I'm giving.
Even by themselves
let's get over to Ndifo Richard, who should be coming in from the United States. Good evening, Ndifo. We're glad to have you.
Thanks for having me in the program today.
Yes, Ndifo, things are changing on the ground with what we are observing. The destructions are still ongoing. The killings are also ongoing from a different perspective, more gruesome today. How did we get to where we are now?
Leonard, you see, we have been having this blame game all along.
Okay.
Pointing fingers left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want to get to that point of blaming A or blaming B, but I would say that the first thing is we misunderstood a situation. A lot of people from inception felt that we were going to have independence overnight. The impression they created to a lot of Cameroonians and sadly, a lot of very intelligent people, I would say, intellectuals, right up to this moment, still believe in the illusion that we are going to have independence very soon. And it is this illusion that drove us into the situation in which we found ourselves today. It's the illusion that we thought if we get engaged in violence, if we get engaged in armed conflict, we were going to achieve independence. I remember in 2017, we were told that we will be in Boya come October 1st. And no matter how some of us try to dismiss the possibility of this, no matter how some of us try to let people know that this is just an illusion, this was a scheme to get people killed, nobody listened. And the sad part of it is that a whole lot of people, I'm talking about the grassroots population, they fell into this scam. Many of them fell into it, and many of them believe so strongly in it, and that empowered the people who were propagating all of this thing. And these people were able to convince a group of young people, young men, so to speak, in Cameroon, to believe that they can take up arms and that they can even sacrifice their lives for southern Cameroons to achieve independence. And so these young people, many of whom were jobless, many of whom had dropped out from school, they found in this an opportunity because they were promised that
seemingly we've lost touch with Richard. I'm coming back into the studios. Carlson, I'll be getting back to you in Yaoundé. We have just been joined by the national president of the USDP party, Prince Ekoso. We announced at the beginning of the program, who just came in from Yaoundé to be part of this edition of the program. Prince, welcome.
Thank you very much, Leo. And my warm greetings to my very dear friend and brother, Barrister Julius, and my fellow comrade, Dr.
Ndimancho.
It's a very long time, and I'm happy that the three of us, especially, we are on this panel.
Okay. Yes, I'm sure you must be a very worried national president, going by what is happening in the southwest and northwest regions from the early days of this crisis. You were there with myself in Boya. You saw how this whole issue started, and 2022, we are still into it with no clear way out. The party should maybe holding meetings to see how to understand what is happening on the ground today.
Yeah, Leo, once again, I want to thank you very much for inviting me here. And I'm very grateful to God because you have a history of my political activities in this country. And I want to, like, maybe backdate, not like backdate, but try to make an allusion or an allusion to some of the happenings in the early days of this conflict. You know, I want to specify again, let the whole world know that the role that Mancho BBC played, or that they wanted him to play in this whole drama, I was the one to play that role. In fact, they contacted me, I think some months, or let me say some few weeks before that very unfaithful incident in Bamenda. And I don't want to mention names, but they spoke to me at length for hours on the phone, trying to convince me that I'm very popular, I'm a young man with the talent, with the dexterity, that I could become the president of Southern Cameroon. So I reminded them that the Southern Cameroon's quest for legitimacy or whatever is legitimate in itself, but the strategy that they are trying to be able to put into place is not a strategy that is going to be winnable. And when I mentioned that, the next day my picture was on social media with a cross on my forehead that wanted dead or alive. You know, so I was one of those first people who they started actually hunting to be crucified because I did not want to follow the strategy which is already becoming a very big problem now for our people. So to say, looking at the situation on ground, like you read from my communique after the killing of the regional delegate for penitentiarity in the Northwest, we came up with a communique which at this time we became a little bit harder, with regards to the situation. But one of the things I want to very, very much mention is the fact that USDP has never in one way or the other sustained the concept of separation, the concept of Ambazonia. USDP has never, and we will never, because that is not our vision, that is not our propaganda, that's not our manifesto. So normally when things happen like this, it has to actually frustrate my spirit. It frustrates me every day. Sometimes I have sleepless nights, like a few days ago with the killing of Mr. Theodore.
The regional delegate for penitentiary administration for the...
Exactly. And 3 other warders. And not only that, it will appear, I received some other pictures this evening showing that some of their heads were chopped off.
Yes.
And I started feeling more and more feverish with that situation. And I want to say here that, when we decide to take upon ourselves, I want to be very, very clear today, Leo. We are talking here about the government and a handful of people who have taken arms to be able to defend Southern Cameroons. Some people feel that they are more Southern Cameroonians than the others. And so when you criticize, like our press release, which we made public the other day, in some other forums, I've seen people like what you posted. I've seen comments of people trying to denigrate USDP, trying to insult Prince Eko. So the moment you don't speak the language that they want to hear, you become obviously an enemy. And in this kind of situation, I will want to vehemently say that those who are propagating the art or the vision of separation are fast losing the grounds in the concept of those who call themselves Anglophone in this country. You cannot kill my father. One of the ladies back in the days was a sympathizer of USDP. Called Pastor, Florence, whose brother is Mr. Theodore, who was killed. Immaculate was a sympathizer of USDP back in the days. As a matter of fact, I and Immaculate were developing strategies 24/7 on how she was going to come back to this country and take over Bamenda for USDP. And when I saw her become so radicalized and joined the concept of secession, I felt overpowered. And she's somebody who is extremely aggressive and very, very eloquent. When I heard that Mr. Theodore is her brother, I asked myself, where will Immaculate find herself now? If I was the one, do you think that I will continuously want to sustain the concept of Ambazonia? The answer is vehemently no. So the idea of people trying to demonize other people and going to the extent of killing people whom they claim they want to protect or they want to salvage them from the bondage that Mr. Biya has brought in this country, which obviously most of us don't deny. But it becomes very, very more disturbing because that act becomes more dangerous than the act that some of us are claiming that Biya has done in this country. So there is just no way that I can condone with those kind of acts. There is just no way that USDP will be able to condone with those kind of acts. There is just no way that any mother in the village will be able to condone with those kind of acts. The act of killing or taking the life of someone in itself is crime against humanity. So all of these people who have been killed, whether by military or by the Ambazonians, all of those people, in my judgment must be brought to book.
Okay, they must be brought to book. Carlson, Ayaba, you are out there in Yaoundé. What I actually want us to understand today is why these killings are ongoing in the southwest and northwest regions, yet the war seemingly is just watching us without acting. Can we understand why? There is no volume from Carlson, please. Carlson, please. Maybe your mic is muted. Can you fix it?
Hear me now? Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes.
All right. So as I was saying, you were asking why is the war silent. I think I will go in conjunction to what the president of the party said. I also greet my fellow panelists, Dr. Ndifo, Dr. Ndimancho, and Barrister Achu. Mr. We need to understand something. Why is the war silent? The world only reacts to people who have legitimate claims. And for you to have a legitimate claim, you have to create an institution which is based on policies, which is based on fair play. But that is what we have not seen from the Ambazonian side. The foundation of Ambazonia is built on lies. And anybody who uses lies to cajole people, to win people over, is a weakling. I'm very sorry to say, Ambazonia is a foundation, is a very weak foundation. That is why they cannot say, listen, if you look at foreign democracies and foreign institutions, they believe that the power comes from the people. You are supposed to convince the people to be able to support your cause. When the Anglophone crisis started, Mr. Julius, it was pushed by lawyers and teachers because the teachers were trying to protect the English system heritage, the lawyers were trying to protect the common law. But if you ask, what are the Ambazonians trying to fight to protect? Are they protecting the English system? Are they protecting the English system of education? Definitely no, because the amount of teachers which Ambazonian soldiers have killed is even more than the amount of teachers which the recent teachers strike, the OTS strike has killed. Ambazonians have killed not less than 100 teachers. So they cannot come to claim that they are standing for the Anglophone problem. They are trying to protect the teachers' right because they are the first ones who killed the teachers. Are they trying to protect the common law system? Definitely not. We have seen lawyers being intimidated by the soldiers. Lawyers, recently, Senator Kemende, a lawyer, was killed by the Amazonians. Now, what are they trying to protect? The Anglophone heritage. You know, when we talk about the Anglophone heritage, the Anglophone heritage is based on indirect rule and English language because British Cameroons back then was used to a form of indirect rule, which means there was no centralized form of ruling. But today, the Anglophones, were not happy with the central form of government. That's why they're protesting. But the Ambazonians are not even looking towards that direction of an indirect rule or English language. You see people, you have a personal opinion which you bring up, the Ambazonians attack you. So you see that the Ambazonians have nothing protecting. And because they have nothing protecting, because they have the interest, they don't have the interest of the people at heart, they have not mandated anybody. They can never not want to fight for my fight. Like Barrister Achu Julius said, that the elites have not run away, contrary to what Dr. Ndimancho was saying. All of us have been standing here and we have been denouncing Amazonia. And they call us weaklings. The real weaklings are those who are in the diaspora. If Christian or Ayaba think they are not weaklings, they should come there somewhere to Pamenda. When they will be in Pamenda, the person who will dress more sitting the Amazonian shoulders. Now, when you look at what's happening in East of now in Ukraine, and you see that the world is turning their attention there, start asking yourself a question. We have been in this crisis for 6 years. How come the world is not giving us that attention? And I can tell you the answer lies in one of a Sunday show which passed on my major prime where Ambassador Tibo Nagi was interviewed. He said the only way which the world can look Anglophone serious is if we decide to come as one, and that is what we have killed. Because some group of Anglophone went away and formed Ambazonia, and they are trying to use force to pull other Anglophones. Even in that Ambazonia camp, they are very separated. They are those who are federation or not even federation. They have their own camps which are not even united. This camp is fighting this camp. This camp is fighting this camp. Even when you come to the Anglophone side, all of us are fighting ourselves. So that's why the world is watching at us fighting. You can't expect somebody to come where all of us cannot sit and have a common consensus. I'm very sorry. But the truth is, the Anglophone problem is not the Ambazonian problem. The Ambazonian problem is a terrorist problem because the Ambazonian problem is not only concerning the Northwest and Southwest. Last year, I remember in Betwa, a police commissioner caught some of his police officers who were stealing bullets, and it was found that they were trafficking those bullets to the talk in Bamenda. So you begin to say the Anglophone problem is not only a problem for the Northwest and Southwest.
Is for Richard there, please? Even before Richard is still there, can we permit him conclude with what he was developing? But I also want him to say something about the international community's reaction to what is happening.
As cannibals. And today, we are seeing people both on camera eating flesh. It's very disgraceful. I'm sorry. And I catch them all those who are in the diaspora that the actors of them live against them. I should say they will come from those siding in Maryland, those siding in Poland, those siding in China, and telling people to kill people and eat people. One day, my judgment shall come.
Okay. Ndifo, are you still there, please?
Yes, Leonard, I am.
Okay, can we understand what is happening at the international level? We saw, like Dr. Ndimancho said earlier on, we saw the arrival to Cameroon of the UN Secretary General for the Commonwealth, La Francophonie. All of them have been here at the beginning of this crisis, but for some time now, we hear very little from that end of the war.
Yes, Leonard, that is because the international community cannot help us. We will help ourselves. They cannot do it for us. The problem is our problem. And the solution lies with us. The solution do not lie with them. And even if the international community comes in, what they're doing, they're only coming in to help you find a solution to the problem yourself. They cannot come with the problem or with a solution in a basket to impose on Cameroon. It doesn't work that way. The international community and the United Nations in particular they've learned their lessons the bitter way. I'm talking about the situation in South Sudan, which many Amazonians they always make allusion to draw example from, to say that because South Sudan achieved its independence, so we too can achieve our independence. But I don't want us to concentrate so much on the guys who are leading this movement or this group, so to speak, because these guys have their ulterior motives, and it has been shown without any iota of doubt that their interest is themselves. If you see how divided they are, you don't need a specialist, you don't need a marabout to tell you that their interest is themselves. So I don't really want to spend so much time talking about them, because there is nothing you can do to convince them, because they have their motive. What I'm more concerned about is the ordinary Cameroonians down there who seem to have been brainwashed to the point that they do not even realize how much pains these guys are inflicting on them. A majority of them still believe in them. That is the most amazing part in the whole thing. The fact that these people who have been subjected to so much pain still believe and still think that these guys have the magic wands to solve their problem is what is so amazing. And that is what we need to fight to try to convince them to see that these guys are not there for their own interest. Let me ask you this question. You find a group of people will come and tell you, oh, do not go to your shops. Do not open your shop. Do not go to the market. Do not go to the farm. Stay home. And they are out here. They are going to work every day. They are feeding their families. Their children are going to school. And then people sit in Cameroon.
Okay, we have some technical issues there with for Richard's submission. Barrister, let us look at the war and what is happening here. Can we also say that what we are observing with the killings, beheadings, we know that there has been a call for more firepower on ground so that they can attract the attention of the international community, like what is happening in Ukraine. Can we understand that the situation might have changed because they need to up their game to be able to attract international sympathy?
Well, before I react, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the president of USDP. I've not seen him for quite a while.
Okay.
It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you very much for coming. You see, I say there's a certain guy in the US called Chris Ano, who came on Facebook or whatever, internet, to call for the destruction of our own property, to call for world attention. What is that? To me, what they don't get is the fact that, for example, Dr. Ndimancho has cited 4 international high-level civil servants who came to Cameroon to assess the situation. They came and did the assessment and did their own control and left. But these guys, he didn't get it, which meant that, look, what people are doing is wrong. Those civil servants will never tell you that. But just keep quiet and watch you mess up yourself as you're going along. What we ought to understand is the fact that these guys who are in the diaspora preaching this hate and destruction, they themselves don't know what that means. Like I said from the very beginning, they thought a war is a child's play. And you will sit there with those small guns that you carry, you think you can fight a war. What you end up finding is chaos in your own society. You destroy your own society. What Chris Ano is saying is going to destroy him pretty soon. Because I can bet you, you destroy my father's house, I will look for Chris Ano's father's house too and do the same. What you don't understand is that they kill more people in America than here, and then everybody carries a gun. He doesn't know that if you do something, you hurt me here, I can do everything to pay my own flight and go to America to make sure you are hurt. You see, it's going to come. It's like karma. What goes up comes down. It's going to happen. You see, what they're doing is they're creating enmities that will end up in vendettas. Family against family, brother against brother, which will go on for donkey years. If you remember, I used to say there's going to be what we call dog chop dog. Because what they've started is going to have very, very dangerous consequences in our society. And that's what we're seeing now. Let those guys who perpetrate this evil don't think it will not come back to them. Because not only, as I've said, they started by saying we had a spiritual or God-ordained struggle. We realize that in a God-ordained struggle, you don't kill human beings. You do things in a particular way, and God is going to help you through it. But this one, they kill human beings and eat human flesh and spill blood. I bet to tell you that they can go very far. They've had their time for 6 years. But I'm telling you that come this July, this thing is going to stop. Because if you have noticed very well, there's no longer ideology behind what is going on. It is, they're looking for money. And I know, and I'm very confident in our army, that the day the army will decide that this thing is going to stop, it will stop. I am very certain that they've been scared of killing Cameroonians because, let me not tell you, let not mince words. When a bullet leaves a gun, it doesn't have an eye. It kills everything that is on its path. So if the army decides that, okay, let's go for them in all-right war, there will be so much what we call collateral damages. And that's what I'm very certain the army is scared of. They were counting on the fact that with the lenient approach that the government has to this thing, some of them will come to their senses and back down. And this is what is expected in a society, that everybody should behave like a mature somebody or a reasonable person. But when once they are becoming unreasonable, it's going to stop. Okay. I always make an allusion to when they were couping the route in the Grand North. It took the government about 9 years to stop it. But the government succeeded at the end of the day because they are scared of killing innocent people, because at the time, if you're a military man, you come out and you're fighting, you hear gunshots. You will not wait for that, you know where the gunshot is coming from to start opening your own. Okay. So people will die along the line. Okay. So by the end of the day, what I'm praying is that we should have confidence in the system as it is, that is going to take care. These things cannot be solved in one day because it is now all mixed up. And when once thieves get involved and the devil gets involved, they plan to spread it as much as possible.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. It's Sulika from Chang. We are actually reaping the consequences of disobeying the commandment of God. He left us peace, but we exchanged it for war. The war will continue killing itself like this till Jesus Christ comes in. Okay, Sulika, thank you very much. This one says, Mr. Liu, I'm tired with the talking and nothing is being done. What is the need talking and nothing is being done? For 5 years today, we have been singing the same chorus and nothing changes. Kanjo Oban is writing from Kribi. Good evening to you, Kanjo. Good evening, panelists. Are going by what Barrister said, that boys are fighting the devils. The solution therefore becomes easy. A government should send strong men of God to go to those areas and neutralize the devilish spirits. No need military, therefore, because guns don't kill devilish spirits. Tabe is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Tabe. Hi, Mr. Leo. Good evening. I'm enjoying the program from Ntarikon Bamenda, Nguyen Emmanuel, writing. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I have not started receiving my Media Prime. What should I do? Please, it is not on my screen. Hoping to hear from you. Can you just write to me or call me after the program? Tell me where you are watching from. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I'm Ekumi Raymond from Kumba. There is apparent happiness in the hearts of some Cameroonians when the Cameroonian military is molested. The same government with their mentality have never been agents of a good language since the onset of the crisis. We no longer have Ambas but groups of armed robbers. All this wrong lies telling is only fueling the war. Okay, the government has the solution at hand but have prioritized the military option. Okay, please, when you write, tell us who is writing and where you are writing from. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and everyone in the panel. What I have learned in life is that people who create problems never solve any problem. I understand, Barrister, very well. Okay, it is no lie in Cameroon. It's the government. Their main aim is refusing the problem. Cornelius is writing from where we don't know. Please tell us where you're writing from. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panel. Is today I know that this organization called the UN is all a scam. This is because this problem was originally created by the UN, and from the escalation of the crisis in 2016, I thought it was theirs to come in the midst. Okay, Godlove is writing from Bamenda, Dr. Ndimancho, Michael. We are in this. We say the international community is not doing as much as expected. But let us even assume that the international community, I'm talking America and Europe, are faced with what is happening in Ukraine. Africa is not faced with Ukraine. Why is the African continent also not very interested? We have had very little from them.
You see, it is what the UN, the African Union, is they have. I don't want to call it a pact, because you have the African head of states who are very tight to the presidential policies and their seats. And no tyrant, as they are, would like to support any other person against another tyrant. You know, there's this kind of collaboration between them. You don't expect any African president to condemn what is happening in another African country, because they share the same thing. If you condemn me today, and as they are power drunk, tomorrow another person will condemn, and that's why since there's no democracy in Africa, and that's why we are fighting to change. You look at a person like even the African Union chair. What happened in Chad, like the coup d'etat that happened in Chad? Nobody heard him talk, say anything about it, because I mean he is having that feeling for his own country, and that feeling is always very negative. It's not a feeling of abuse; it's always a feeling that destroys. And that we keep on supporting people who cannot help us, Mr. Leo. So don't expect anything from the African Union. Let me come back to what I was talking about, because I remember Barrister hung on the fact that I'm saying we. And I still want to emphasize on the fact that we, when I use after the pronoun we, I mean those who believe in my thought. It must not be everybody. It must not be Barrister. When I say we, I'm talking about my thought, those who believe in me. And let me let you know, Barrister, even before I came to this studio, I had a conversation with one renowned political party in Cameroon. And all of them, they're asking me to come, because they know I'm a federalist. You remember, Honorable Ekoso here, the president, he knows me very much. I don't want to go into details of all that. He will tell you more. That day people want me because they know that I'm somebody, I know what I'm talking about. So when you tell me that, who am I representing? You are fully escalating the issue because you are minimizing what I am talking about. So let us be very, very careful. I think we are supporting a point. I think I started by saying that we started this and we went all wrong because our expectation. Yeah, of course. I mean, we who are on my point of view. No. Because, barrister, if in 2016 you didn't believe in your brothers, the lawyers who came up, means barrister, you are really supposed to be watchful. Because I know that your colleagues that started this thing. Then if you say you were not there and then you were not with them, then there is something perfectly wrong here. Yes. And I'm saying, and I want to say, so what I'm saying is, well, barrister, anyway, it's fact, it's an argument. But I'm saying that you realize that these guys have become helpless. I don't want somebody to say that the Anglophones have left this thing to escalate. And when I say the Anglophone elite, they are also responsible for this. And if Barrister Achu is an Anglophone elite, then he is responsible. Let me tell you that there are lots of Anglophone elites who have supported this cause privately. Like? They don't want people out to say it in public. I'm saying in public today. The most Anglophone elites who are members of the CPDM in Yaoundé, they have been supporting these guys financially. Like who? Let us, I mean, of course, we'll go private and we'll talk about them. Okay. See, let us not do say certain things here. I mean, they come in public and they pretend as if this thing is not their problem. They condemn, but privately they are supporting. We are saying that they went wrong, and that all of us we went wrong, and that. Actually, when you realize what is happening on ground, you realize that these guys are actually chasing the wind now. Because when you look, see, who General Ivo, their so-called General Ivo, who killed them? They were Ambas. Look at General Chacha, who killed them? The very Amba. Look at Isubu and Kumbo, who killed them? The Amba. Now you understand that it is more of a problem within the talks, within those they call the Amba, the terrorists as people call them, than the problem with the government in Yaoundé. And that is why when you say that the population, people say that the population should get out. Can you imagine somebody who takes a cutlass and cuts somebody's neck and you're asking the population to go and risk his life in front of that kind of person? Even a psychosocial person who will approach that kind of person to advise. And I want people to understand this thing. So let us not put people's lives on the edge. I keep saying this. Now, it is something that has started. Nothing goes forever. Now, they are still warming up with steam. You know, most of these people who are hanging on this thing are ex-convicts. And they are afraid that if the country comes back to normal, they are going to go back to their normal harbors where they were. Most of these people are criminals, and they know that if the country comes to normal, so they keep on with these chemistries, keep on with this disorder for things to get going. But there is a time is coming. And when we say that we, the Anglophone, as he said, we, the Anglophone, we need to keep being hopeful and actually be able to pronounce and say this thing as they are supposed to be. That we actually wholeheartedly support this thing. And now, let us look at the African continent as a whole. We have many African continents which are at war. Is it South Sudan? Is it Nigeria? Is it even Kenya? All of these countries are at war. So who do you expect when fire falls on your hand? Do you expect to remove the fire first, or you leave and come and help somebody, your next neighbor, who is also burning? So we understand that the whole African continent is experiencing a disaster, an inferno, and that the only thing that can put out this inferno is honesty. Is because we have become so very dishonest. And now I don't want to throw a particular arrow to somebody. When you look at what is happening in Cameroon, who has helped to be able to put us in the mire? Is it not the CPDM government? You want me to start calling the names on how things are? It is because of bad governance that we are where we are. But I know that this doesn't justify the fact that you should kill your brother. It is wrong to kill your brother. It is wrong to actually do what is happening in the Anglophone region today. But we are saying that it is common in Africa that we do not want things to go straight. And secondly, we are even talking about the international support. It is in times like this, the international support bodies can be able to come in and they do what they are doing in Africa. Look at what is happening in Central African Republic. It is because of the skirmishes there that you find France and all the other people, they get in to get their minerals. So people have an interest to what is going on there. And let us not only look at Cameroonians who are behind this thing. Where are these guys having these guns that they are having? Where are these having these sophisticated arsenals that they are using today? They are being sponsored. And where is this sponsorship coming in from? Are you sure that there is no unseen hand, which is actually unseen, visible hand somewhere? Let us be very careful. And who is responsible? Has the government taken time to know how porous, or to know who is actually in collaboration with some of these things that are coming into the country? Some of these things didn't come through the seaport. It is here. Containers are being offloaded each day. And do you know what is in those containers? Many have been caught. And nobody is even accountable of anything. We have seen pictures of many of them. You have the airport here. Many of those things are coming in. Who is responsible? Do we only keep blaming the Anglophones? Do we only keep blaming the young people or the Anglophone young people? No. Everybody is taking responsibility. If you refuse to take the responsibility as an Anglophone, accept to take the responsibility as a CPDM militant who are running this country, and we are saying that they have helped to render our borders porous. They have helped to connive with people to bring in arms and sell. We even have military people who are selling arms.
There is no. I want to see that my media prime actually takes exception to asserting that there are CPDM people who have engaged in the importation of ammunitions here until we can have the proof to say those things. Now, not yet. President Ekoso, the international community seemingly is focused on what is happening in Ukraine. He has explained why African nations cannot come here. We have problems in Somalia. DRC is not stable. The Central African Republic itself is not stable. And we know what is happening in West Africa, in Guinea and the other. How do we get this problem solved? Because even within Cameroon, we hear very little from the civil society organizations that usually made reports and were very vocal at the beginning of this. We hear also very little from them. Are they tired?
Yeah, thank you once again, Leo. I call you Leo because you're my very close friend and brother. You know, fundamentally, those who are honest will agree that from the very beginning, I have held and have called on President Biya to take the bull by the horn to solve the problem. I don't really believe in the magic of international communities in solving particular problems which are inherent in the African context. I don't believe in that. The reason why I don't believe in that is because all of us have gone to school and we have read history when it comes to international interventions. And the interventions, as Dr. Ndimancho has mentioned, in even our neighbors here in Central Africa, their intervention have proven that it is about interest. And once it is about interest, you don't expect the international bodies to come to Cameroon to solve your problem and then walk away empty-handed. As a matter of fact, they will budget you what it will cost for them to solve the problem. And if you cannot give them the budget cash, you give them in kind. So these things are not always free. Peace negotiations in international concept is not always free as people think. When people say that, oh, the international body is coming, or UN will come, UN is about to come, UN will come tomorrow, I ask myself, I say, but is UN a box of match that you take and then put the other way? No. These things have, a lot of, manipulations. In fact, the international relation is a relationship of interest. And so, I, as an individual, I have the belief that this problem can be solved by Cameroonians. One of the ways I had earlier mentioned since 2018 thereabout is that the concept of leadership is a spiritual concept. Once you are in leadership position, you have an extra spirit. You may decide to adhere the spirit from the devil or from God. But there is always a spirit that, like you who is here, Leo, as the coordinator of this program, you have a particular spirit and a particular authority to be able to determine who speaks at what time. I have initiated and proposed that President Biya would have gone down to Bamenda and to Boya. Because if a leader comes to a place, no matter how he is hated, the moment President Biya goes down to any place in this country, the euphoria is always different. We should be honest about it. That is the spirit of leadership. The problem will not be like he stays him in Yaoundé and from time to time he goes him to abroad and all of that. It will not be like that. If Cameroonians see that he is making physical and consistent effort in wanting to solve the problem, even if not solving the problem, there will be some kind of remorse to some extent in the minds of those who are hiding at the back, like Dr. Ndimancho said, those invisible hands, whether internal or external. Because the effort of a leader cannot be taken for granted. So internally, we must accept that we have the responsibility in solving the problem before looking at the international community. Mm-hmm. And I will mention again that the international community is not stone or is not metal. The international community are human beings like us who have developed concepts and they are trying to maintain those concepts. Mm-hmm. We too, we can develop our concept and maintain them on how we can be able to manage our country. That is what is needed for us to become citizens of a country. So one of the things I want to also mention is that when you look at the way that the whole struggle is going now, like maybe I think a barrister mentioned it, and maybe Dr. Mancho, or maybe was it Richard before?
Richard, yeah.
You know, you don't expect that the Amber boys should change their dynamics. Because first of all, in the first place, from every indication, the dynamic has never been on a very strong philosophy per se. Mm-hmm. The philosophy I have about Southern Cameroons is not the same what I see them manifesting. And the issue is this: when people are not ruled by a philosophy, they will be ruled by an error. And in every indication, there is an error, like Ndimancho mentioned. There is the way things are going. People are just doing any kind of thing. You cannot, and my argument on this panel and will always be is that you cannot kill your brother in the hope that you want to call attention of the international community. That is unheard of. That is, you know, it doesn't really, sometimes I sleep, I have nightmare for thinking like that. That is why my argument will always be, if this Ambazonian concept, they want to make it to become a serious concept, they should stop killing Anglophones. They should stop killing administrators. As a matter of fact, the real fight should be between those who have guns and those who have guns. It should be between the Amber people and the military. And if at some point we have to create an open field for battle, we should call them to that battlefield so that they should fight there and we see the winner. So once you keep killing your own brother and you brandish it all over the world, cut his neck, take his flesh and eat it in front of camera, and you tell me that you want to convince me that I'll be afraid of you, you create more anger, more vexation, more hatred and bitterness, which, like Barrister mentioned, is going to go for generations.
Okay.
And I want to conclude by saying that, you know, when these things are going on, people are looking at it as if maybe it's nothing. And Ndimancho mentioned that, you know, majority of the people still believe in this. No. The people of the Anglophones or the Southern Cameroonians, they are just scared. Because if you tell me, like for example, like the other day after that press release that we released, even somebody like Daniel Capo was insulting and sending threats. Another guy was somewhere in Poland, he sent a video and was threatening all over the place. The incident in Balangi. Balangi is somewhere that I grew. That's where I began my primary school. That event went on because I was encouraging a tournament to take place there. because the village has been dead for about 5 years now. I said, but the village cannot be like that. Even if I am not, I'm not from the tribe of Balangi, but I school there. It is like my village. So let us create an activity. So some of us came up and we started encouraging for the tournament to. Those boys came, took the ball, seized the ball, burst it, and threatened everybody and said that they are working with military. I said, but why is the military? So in that circumstance, those youths in Balangi became very angry. The people of Balangi became angry. That you cannot keep us, you cannot subject us in total, I don't know what kind of adjective to use. In this case, for 5 years, no activity, we are just scared, everybody is hiding. For what? You all are our brothers. If you want us to make peace, let us make peace now. So that's how the argument began and fighting started. So the issue is this: when people don't know a situation, they cannot go solving it. And when you cannot solve it, you cannot be in the position of discussing the issues.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The truth is the world is watching and still struggling or trying to understand what the Anglophone crisis is all about actually. That's why they are watching despite the killings. The talks concerning the crisis is not actually what it reflects, because even the so-called leaders have failed in representation of the people as well as actually defining the problem. The leaders have violated the rights of the people. They claim to represent violated all human rights and proven they are so ignorant as to how to present their plea, yet concentrate on who leads, power, tussle, and greed. Also, the killings continue because there is a hijack by some persons with guns who use it for business under the canopy of the Anglophone crisis. The killings is just a means to let people know that there is a crisis and still serious. The killings and destructions continues because the government wants it so. They know what to do, yet they implement camouflage solutions deliberately because they believe the fight or struggle will die naturally with time. Reasons why the parliament has decided never to mention it even in their plenary sessions. The killings and destructions continue because the international NGOs give reports about the situation on the ground to the advantage, thus maintaining their stay and getting more money in the name of humanitarian assistance. So the killings and destruction continues because everybody is trying to benefit from it instead of helping to solve the situation. I read it all from Tiku Felix in Boya so that you could react. Is it an affair where quotas are benefiting from, and also making it complex to actually define what the problem is?
Mr. Leonard, I believe it is almost a third year, and we have been discussing the same issue. I don't think there's anything new here.
Okay.
When I said sometime that the person failing to solve the Anglophone crisis is the government, a lot of people keep on telling you that it is false and it is fake. I want to ask, have we had any resolution at the Cameroon House of Representatives, I mean the National Assembly or the Senate, discussed about a pertinent issue affecting Cameroon? Then people equally somewhere, others think that the international community is always for interest. Whether for war or for peace, international community has an interest in every domain. And at times a lot of such agreements made while in peace and even more disastrous than actions taken during war. I want to equally let us to understand that the United Nations, in fact the United States of America, has presented twice a motion on the situation in southern Cameroon at the level of the United Nations Human Rights Commission, and that particular resolution have been voted out with votes coming from Equatorial Guinea and Russia, which many Cameroonians presently support. It will equally somewhere let us to think that Cameroonians don't even know what they have been talking about by the common saying that we can handle the problem ourselves. And to my opinion, 5 years is too long a period that the government has been unable to propose concrete solutions to the Anglophone problems. We had what we call a consortium. A lot of resolutions were made, but on that, to blind over Cameroonian, a monologue was organized to which the state called it a major national dialogue, where a lot of what was discussed on the agenda were headlines and commission named and dictated upon by the state. Are the solution provided by the so-called monologue feasible? Have they been capable of achieving any ends? I have equally still thinking that somewhere The people of Southern Cameroon have been feel cheated and continue being cheated over the years. When you look at a lot of all those decisions that have been taken by the government, you look at the various commissions that have been created and the people appointed to lead or to manage such particular commissions were really people who were not even for that there is even really an Anglophone problem. To what problem are you going to resolve when you have been called to handle? When you refuse, there was really no problem. Southern Cameroonians are left, presently, to the meaning that no matter how long it would last, the armed groups will drop their arms and the government will find its way in the two regions. But the way we are, I said it is a stalemate that nobody knows where we are going. And the consequences are always enormous. Yes, we may equally talk on blaming on the other side that the armed groups have become so disastrous by killing their own very people, and that an armed conflict is fought between belligerents of armed groups against other armed groups. This is not the case when we look at other major wars around the world, that most often than not, the civilians are the victims of the same act that have been orchestrated in the environment where they are. In fact, they are always being caught in the web, or at some point, government giving recommendations that the killings happen because of exchange of fire, and that loose bullets might have been responsible for the killing of such civilians. Is it not too much a time that Cameroon government, the government of the New Deal, rigor and moralization, we ask, where has been the part of the rigor that the country was given to in 1982? Why has the country so tearing apart with a lot of fractions? Not only the Anglophone problem, the Bamileke problems, that they can never rule this country, and that the country was made only for a few. Those who eat any type of meal could not be at the level of the presidential palace. I'm telling you that the Cameroon government has a lot. For he who pays the piper calls the tune.
Okay. Mr. Leo, good evening. Since the Ambe think that they have the right to kill innocent people, we too are on the way to form our own group and see how this killing will not stop. All we want from the state is guns. Mbu Zakari is writing from Vikovi, Jakiri subdivision. Good evening to you. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and everyone in the studio. Wishing you all a happy Holy Week. In fact, it is a very sad situation to see where this stupid and senseless war has brought us to. A war is very easy to ignite, but takes a very long time to end, with more casualties every day. It is time for Africa to reflect on what happened to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Congo, Burundi, Sudan, and many others. War should not take place in Africa, mostly with the issue of bad governance and socioeconomic issues in Africa. The international community will never help us because they are making more money in selling their guns. Secondly, there is plenty of lies telling involving the government officials and those of the so-called Amazonian frontline leaders. Prince Bile is writing from Berlin in Germany. Good evening to you, Prince Bile. The war is fueled mostly by those in the diaspora because they don't feel the impacts like those on the ground. I think we all have a role to play in solving the problem because we all contributed in one way or the other in provoking the crisis. I see with doctors' ideas. I'm writing from Belgium. Good evening to you. Writing from Belgium. This one says, good evening, Mr. Leo. This thing is not Anglophone crisis any longer. I don't think there is anybody in Bermuda who still supports this nonsense. If we are taking orders from these people, it's because we are afraid of guns. It's free. Writing from mile 5 in Quen. Good evening to you, free. Julius Chofo, writing from the UK, says, good evening, Mr. Liu and panel. If the federalists on your panel were telling us how they are fighting for federation and what their roadmap to federation is, maybe our people will start listening to them. For now, the only visible fight, no matter how problematic it is a fight for separation. Julius Chofo, writing from the UK. I'm glad reading from you, Julius. Yes, now, people really think that this thing needs to be stopped. If assistance is not coming from the international community, the African Union is also not doing so much. The civil society in Cameroon is getting the more tired and bored with what is happening. Where is that place where solutions can come up?
The only solution we have is going to be political.
Okay.
Why I say this is because I've realized that most of the vocal Anglophones in this matter belong to no political party. Most of them don't like to align to a political ideology and go for elections to become a people representative, but like always to talk on behalf of the people. You see, Anglophones are dictators. That's our first problem. We have to start by solving. Why I say this is because when this Anglophone problem started, long time ago, you will notice a group of people just sit like 5 of us here, come out with AAC1, bring resolutions, and ask everybody to follow. After that, AAC2, after that, SCNC, after that, whatever. And by so doing, we fail in one thing. We don't do politics. Have you imagined if all those who were backing let's say the Amazonian movement or whatever, were parliamentarians? Do you know what the impact they should have created? Why can't they form political parties, seek for power from the people to represent them, to talk on their behalf? Because I'm telling you, if you have an agenda and people like it, they'll follow you. We don't want to do that. It's too tedious. Let's use force and use dictatorship and force it on the people. And that is where we have this problem. Until the day we learn that democracy is not democracy, you need support of the people by going for elections. We will never go anywhere. This thing will stay where it is. We call for elections, people say boycott. Politics of an empty chair will never succeed. Has never succeeded anywhere in the world. Empty chair. No matter, look at Nigeria when they were coup d'etats. The political parties were very active because they knew that they loved their country and wanted to make sure that the head notwithstanding, the country has to be keep moving. You can't blame one man in a country of 25 million people for saying that he's the one who has done that. Meanwhile, all of us there are there watching. None of us has the guts. You say, okay, I want to challenge him. And you sit behind and you blame him. He goes to elections and wins. You say, no, he has frauded. Meanwhile, you yourself, you never went for elections. You see, that's the type of situation we are living in. We don't understand that in a democracy, there are certain rules that you must follow. If you don't do politics, we usually say politics will do you. But as we want to avoid all of that, we become dictators in our own right. My brother, Dr. Ndimancho, was saying, we. At times, we say CPDM was supporting these guys. At times, we say no, CPDM has cost it. You see, we get ourselves all mixed up. We put ourselves in a pot of soup. And by the time we will realize you are swimming in with all types of things you cannot, like the Ambe, you are swimming with them in the same pot of soup. You cannot understand why. But you don't know that you are the cause of it.
Okay.
Let's go for democracy.
Okay.
Let's go for elections, no matter the circumstances.
Okay.
And you will see the change.
And you want an Anglophone president?
Of course. One of the solutions I've always mentioned is the fact that I think the first thing is create a vice presidency, a vice president, appoint an Anglophone who has the rights, who can continue the mandate of when the president decides to stop. And that will some sort of coerce so many persons to come back to the fold. I strongly believe in that. Okay. And on top of that, the country has been ruled for close to 60 years by only Francophones, right? This is not a time for Cameroon to try something else. I believe in that. But as I say, I will not challenge nobody. I will not like anyone to challenge President Paul here. And I would like him to stay there till the day he says, okay, I want to challenge. Because you see, in politics, let me tell you something people don't know. In Africa, you don't just go and take power. It is organized and handed down to somebody. Whether you like it or not, you can't fight the person who's on the seat. Don't dare. If you don't know, if you don't understand that is how things go on in Africa, I share for you. You always be there complaining okay. All your life till you die.
Hello, Mr. Leo and his crew. Good evening. It's time for us to see how all of us Cameroonians have to say enough is enough of this nonsense war. Be it Ambe or government are there for their interest. SN Danaza Denzi writing from Canada. Good evening to you. Good evening to you, Mr. Leo. Just the arrival of Dr. Achu in the studio has elated my heart over the view of this topic today. If he had a political party, I would be a militant, such an intellectual, and speak the mind of some of his. Yes, Kelvin is writing from Bermuda. Good evening to you, Kelvin. Yes, what should be the focus now of Cameroonians as a whole to see to it that this conflict is brought to an end?
I think Cameroonians should simply sympathize. Cameroonians from the north, from the east, from the west, let them sympathize with what is happening in the Anglophone region. I remember, just come back to what Achu quoted and talked about the Kupere route now, which stopped. I want to inform you that the Kupere route only transformed into Boko Haram. No. It didn't stop. So, I mean, that is a fact you should verify and see. But I think that what touches an Anglophone should touch a Francophone. And I think that it should be one for all and all for one. And they should not go to Parliament and start discussing trivialities. They should not start discussing trivialities. And secondly, it shouldn't only be that the CPDM should be that party that should have continuity. We have many other parties too that should be able to lead. And I think that if there's anybody in the CPDM who wants to change, let them first of all start by bringing the change within the CPDM. We have most Anglophones. Do you know that before the President Biya went in for this another mandate in 2011, he was a championing by the Anglophones. The Anglophones are their own enemies. The Fonjindam, they are the one who talked about that presidency. And here again, Barrister Achu talking about joining and letting the mandate of the president go to an end. When do we have all this thing? And when are we going to change now? I think that we should be able, if we are people of change, change can come at any time. Does President Paul Biya have a land title at the 2G? Why must we think that he should die first before any other person comes up now? Where do we see that in the world now, Achu? I think that we should at least be honest about what we are talking about. Let us say that. I mean, you say that. I mean, you should leave it.
Stop it.
No.
The day he decided to stop it.
The day he decides.
Stop stealing lies.
No.
He started by saying that CPDM bought guns. Look, please.
Listen, I'm talking. You just said a gentleman. You just said a gentleman should be another gentleman's minister. Now you have gone against the norms of gentlemanliness. And I think that you should consider be a gentleman by letting me finish.
You should feel it too.
No, you should be a gentleman.
I'm not allowed to finish.
No, you should be a gentleman by allowing me to finish.
You started it.
I am saying that
I have said Paul should die.
Don't go above my point. No, you are diverting my point. You are diverting my point. No, you are diverting my point. I'm saying that we can stop the man. Barrister, it is not too late. No, listen. You cannot come into my private life. That's the way. No, listen. Listen. You are saying that we should let then the president should go to that. No, I'm saying that. Listen. Every other person. You are not the only one listening. You are not the only one listening. Everybody is listening. You should not hang on anything. No, don't bring the weapon or the weakness here. What I'm saying is that. No, listen.
You say somebody should die.
No, listen. But is it bad to die? Nobody will die. Even me, I will die. Even me, I will die. What I'm saying that every other party has a chance in Cameroon.
When the time comes,
every other person has a chance.
No, I don't look for trouble.
No. What trouble?
No,
we are talking about it.
Vice, please.
I will get it.
Vice, let's sue for peace, please.
Let's
very civil. No, I am civil. I am very civil. What I have just repeated, I mean, Barrister said we should leave him to go to and then you were proposing for an Anglophone to be the vice president. And I mean, I think that you should let me finish. No. You will come and then you you should be civil too now. You should be a gentleman too. You just want me. You just want me. No, listen.
I'm able to go to jungle like you.
No, listen. What jungle are you talking about? It means that you have something hidden in your heart.
I'm ready for you.
No, there's no fighting. There's no ready for me.
So stop talking. Don't tell lies.
Barrister, have you ever heard I'm a living corpse? I am. Don't be ready for me. You can even kill me now. What I'm saying is that every other party has a chance in Cameroon. And I'll say loud and clear.
Yes.
And that we cannot think that we will live for one party to go for 100 years and get tired.
Who's we?
We of the other party. We are the one. Why you wonder about we?
Is this civil society?
No, listen. We the civil society. Why you wonder about we, barrister? Leave my we. I'm talking about we, and those who have the
say
we.
I say I. You say I too.
We and I. See, we are
just
the other party.
Yourself.
No, barrister, you can receive it too.
No, talk about it. You started it. I want to go to jungle like you.
Okay. If you think I'm the judge, we are welcome. Very welcome. Yeah. I'm not that lion that bites and kills. I'll tell you as a friend. But what I'm saying is that, barrister, everybody should be given a chance in Cameroon to rule Cameroon. It is true that their champion has ruled and ruled very well.
Stop you.
But you can rest.
It's about election.
Barrister, leave that. Barrister, you cannot keep on talking that way. I'm of the classroom. No, do you know about the silent majority?
Oh, come on.
I am part of those. If you think that I don't belong to any political party, I'm those of the silent majority, and the silent vote counts. You know, if you think that I must stand on the pulpit, barrister. What have you proposed within the CPDM to show that you want an Anglophone to come in? When you people keep on saying that, your champion should go on and on and on. Don't we need a change? We need a change. He has ruled very well. Can't he rest? That is true.
How do we solve?
We solve the problem by saying that. I started by saying that. No. I did not talk particularly to barrister. If you want to take anything personal, it is your problem. What I'm saying that we can solve the problem by giving each and every Cameroonian a chance and each and every party a chance. And that Cameroonians look at problems collectively. They do not look at problems individually. The fact of looking at Anglophones as people who are of the lower grade is bad. Secondly, the issue of the Tontinant and the Sardinage not exists because Cameroon is one. We just talked about president in Cameroon here, in Africa, who when you ask where the president come from, they will not even tell you. But why is it that when you come to Cameroon, you ask about this particular person, somebody can trace that person right to his home? It is not good faith. That we have to be each other's keeper. We are all Cameroonians, and that we should give each and every Cameroonian a chance. Let the USDP have a chance. Let the SDF have a chance. Let the LMC have a chance. We do not have any political party with a land title anywhere in Cameroon. That is what I'm trying to say. Is it not true? Am I threatening anybody? I am not. This is a democratic pronouncement that each and every person has potentials. And I usually say, there is no successful person without a successor. If you think that you are a father and that you have ruled so well and you have been a good father in family, you must lead your child. You must lead your child to your footsteps. And you don't have to be afraid that if you leave, your family will crumble. I'm talking in terms of the country. That if the president has ruled very well, there are many other pobias behind. It is very normal. He has ruled well, and therefore there should be people who can succeed him. And those who succeed can not only be in that CPDM, those who succeed can also come from other political parties. That is just what I'm trying to say, and that Cameroon needs to be one. You know, I'm a federalist from the beginning. When you keep on talking about Njunga, I don't even know what you mean by Njunga. But if I'm that kind of Njunga where you fear, I thank God. I really want to increase my power. But I'm saying that I am one of those Cameroonians that I want unity, and that federalist that I want a Cameroon that is one and indivisible. That Cameroon I can be able to stand forth and.
Okay. We're going to. Okay. We are taking a short break to come right after, please. I've cut off. Let's take a break, please. Okay, welcome back. You're watching Prime on my media Prime. President Akoso, what at your level, you are a leader of a political party. I also know that you guys are working out something as a coalition of opposition political parties. Are you people discussing what is happening in the southwest and other regions? Are you engaging politicians in Yaoundé? What should Cameroonians be expecting from you? What are you doing?
Well, let me say that I think even though Barrister is of the CPDM, but I think that he's a sympathizer of USDP one way or the other.
Okay.
You know, so USDP stands as a political party that has
they insult me on your platform. I'm just watching Mr. Liu.
So
he insult me.
So I believe strongly that USDP has done a lot when it comes to portraying leadership in this country, and without any gainsaying, we keep on pushing forward, and USDP is part of a 7 political party coming together, which we have worked for the past 1 year and something, trying to make a proposal with regards to the electoral code. Because sometimes people felt that the opposition were not doing anything, there was no proposal and all of that. So there's a document now which we have produced, which is very rich, which I want all Cameroonians to be able to try and visit, and to see how we can be able to push forward to see that the electoral code becomes a document or gives way or possibility for Cameroonians to be able to participate in an election that Barrister has been emphasizing on democratically without any much superiority or inferiority complex. So that is the basis of that document. So what we are doing in this 7-man political party, opposition party that has come together, is that we are pushing forward to see that we can engage government into certain actions. And those procedures are on the way. Like you saw recently, we have been in different diplomatic meetings, you know, trying to not call the international community to come and decide for us, but to be able to make sure that, you know, in international relations, there are certain principles that you must follow, and in politics. So that's what we are just doing. And we had already sent that document to the president himself. We had already written to him. We had already sought for audience for him to receive us. So since some people say that the president is the master of his own calendar, so we are waiting that he will be able to grant us audience so that we can discuss these things, because he is the president of the Republic of Cameroon. He's not only the president of the CPDM. So we have to discuss these things. And if he is not available, he should mandate someone who can carry the message that he wants, and that document should have been studied by him to some extent. So what we expect Cameroonians to do at this point in time with regards to the 7 political parties that I know is that we are working extremely hard. It's true that people had a lot of disappointment when it comes to those kind of gatherings of opposition parties, but I want to guarantee all Cameroonians at home and abroad that this gathering of these 7 political parties is not a gathering, as I've seen certain comments, side comments here and there, saying that, oh, we have seen these kind of things happen before, and so on and so forth. And then number 2, I want to mention that the Anglophone problem is always the central point of discussion in those meetings. And I'm not trying to make myself to be the Anglophone president right now, but in those gatherings, in those 7 political parties, and even when we meet with those diplomats, I am responsible of discussing and expatiating on the Anglophone crisis and connecting it to other crises in the country, and which I believe the diplomats have understood profoundly, and some of them, also some other political parties in that group, who did not really master the Anglophone crisis, have been able to have the opportunity to be able to master it and to know what's really going on, and they are sympathizing with it. And I want to say that going by what Barrister and Dr. Ndimancho mentioned with regards to the issue of, you know, elections and political parties and all of that, and the fact that an Anglophone should become the next president of this country, is but logical and, you know, by natural, descent, that as things stands, as it stands now, we should be able to prepare ourselves as Anglophones to be able to govern the country. And we cannot govern the country in disorder. We cannot govern the country in chaos. We cannot govern the country in insulting each other and threatening each other here and there. We must be ready, because the call is there. The preparedness is coming up, It might be even barrister that will be chosen at the end of the day.
As the president.
And nobody knows.
Okay.
But the point is that Cameroonians and what I want to say is that Cameroonians and particularly Anglophones, I want to make an appeal here, a solemn appeal. We should stop distracting ourselves. The time is very crucial. I know what I'm talking about. For several months now, I've been a little bit silent, but the work has been intense on the ground. That I can be able to say to all Cameroonians.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all panelists.
Let me just conclude by saying something. I didn't go deep to what the barrister said. In terms of power sharing, there's what we call lobby. And lobby in politics is acceptable. Even if President Biya has to give over power to an Anglophone, or to me, for example. So sometimes people feel like, you know, you must become extremely radical for you to be able to take power. Those days have gone passed by that, you know, you create a kind of situation that will make your opponent to be afraid of you. As a matter of fact, I am not sure that as long as the government of Cameroon is concerned, any political party has the measure of strength as what the government has, in terms of military might, in terms of strategy, in terms of finance even. So Anglophones should try and lobby for us to be able to be in a position to take over this country, which is our right. And those are the things that I want all Anglophones to know and to understand that USDP has a manifesto, and the manifesto stands for one nation, two systems within the context of a federal constitution.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. I know you will not read my message, but even so, the Anglophones saw terror, and now they are harvesting. Okay, they sowed, that's what you mean. Sowed terror, and now they are harvesting terrorism. We have an Anglophone problem, and it's legitimate, but not an Anglophone terrorism. Dawu Karim, writing from Bafusam, I've read your message, Dawu, and as well as many other messages. I hope that I'll have time to read them, so many of them. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and Happy New Year to the entire panelists of Great Minds with a very interesting topic. Keep the good work. Aiden V of watching from Halifax in Canada. Yes, what should Anglophones be doing today to see into it that this problem is solved, not from the government perspective, Anglophones themselves?
Not today. I believe a lot of Anglophones have been doing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Others are still fighting, and this is what comes with environment where terror has been instilled. Okay. That several times when you try to oppose or propose, there is always a counterforce from another end. I will tell you that there was what we have called the CDN, the Coalition for Dialogue and Negotiation, which invited a lot of Anglophone Cameroonians to Canada. And of recent, again, we have another coalition of federalist groups and activists, which is headed by Dr. Monzo, which is equally, again, to come up and keep on explaining. I've been watching them online. Likewise, the CDN still organizing and calling for meetings. Then you find a group of people, meaning there is a need first, the which of His Eminence, Christian Cardinal Tumi, that there is a need for all Anglophone Cameroonians to come together and talk as one person, which the government has never granted. And Barrister Achu can confirm to that they even said that Boya will never be a place for Anglophones to meet. And that conference has never taken place. And I believe very strongly that the first thing will be for Anglophones to talk among themselves and know really what they want and where they are going, what they have done, where the errors have been committed. If we can't understand our errors, we will not be capable of writing the way ahead. We need to talk to one another. Secondly, there is a need for the government to be sincere. And I want to comment very strongly that the New Deal government of President Pobia has been ruled with a lot of lies telling and factism. You can find that in a lot of papers. The Anglophone crisis have been curved and covered up, as people will tell you that things are running, getting into normalcy. They will tell you that peace is returning. I ask the question, the fact that peace has returned, does it mean the problem has been resolved? Because if peace quenches off, because one person presented a more bigger force in terms of arms and power, then one day the children of those same people will still live to fight again.
can we resolve an Anglophone problem that will become internal solution than perishable or decorative solutions that will expire and fades out in the days ahead. We need a sincere talking between the government of Cameroon and the people of Southern Cameroon. We have not done that, and we need to do it. That there is a need for a second measure through national dialogue, where Cameroonians should tell one another. A lot of people ask me sometimes that the most powerful person, I was watching, that's why I got angry last evening on the platform. People said President Paul Biya should be thanked. He's one of the best presidents we have on earth. And I asked, what then will live the life of Nelson Mandela that spent 27 years in prison and ended up forgiving all those who sent him to him in prison, his party members, those who intimidated him while he was in prison. There is a need for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. For even President Paul Biya, number one, to apologize sincerely that I failed to understand that we needed to talk. Because at the end of the day, after using arms, after using weapons of mass destruction, we will end up talking. So why then avoid the first solution and start with the second approach? There is a need for the government to get into a true dialogue, reconciliation, negotiation on the same table without preconditions.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I thank Dr. Ndimancho for standing his grounds. Barrister will support the ruling party till the end. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. The Anglophone crisis is still moving on because some people accepted it and believe that it can bring down Cameroon and are looking for solutions. Some people refused that such a problem doesn't exist, and that is why the killings to them means nothing. Pride has taken both the government and Ambe fighters. No one wants to lay down the arms for fear of what I don't know. People have taken it too personal, settling their scores, especially back in the villages. To the best of my knowledge, sir, God is who we need to intervene in this crisis. Abraham is watching from Yaoundé. Dr. Esther Bisson says, order in the house, please. Dr. Esther is watching from Kumba. Daisy from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. I'm just, please, order in the house, so the house is too noisy. Good evening to you, Daisy. You got what I just said. I'm sure you...
You see, at times, Dr. Ako is a good talker, but he knows nothing about politics.
Okay.
He's too blunt about it. Just imagine, the Prime Minister of this country is an Anglophone. He organizes a major, what he calls a major national dialogue. Dr. Ako sits and said, that was not sincere enough. Does he think he's more Anglophone than the Prime Minister? You see, well, that's why I always say, look, we have a problem. We take a political issue to become too academic about it. And when once you bring this academic, you will cite only CDN or some dictatorial group that sits, no mandate, and tell everybody. That's where the issue is. That's where we Anglophones have a problem. We don't understand constituted authority. When the president of USDP speaks, all of us listen reverently because he's the president of a political party. I speak because I belong to CPDM, and they send me once to talk on their behalf. You speak on whose behalf? Yourself, right? You speak on whose behalf? Yourself, right? But you generalize it. In as much as you can have good ideas, but the way you present it, that's what is causing us the problem. You see, in Bamenda, the lawyers that matched, if you see the average age, they were very young lawyers who matched. Not the senior lawyers matched, like in Bamenda. Go and check it out. You go and find out the teachers that match is of a certain particular age group that matched. You say I was against them. I said no, but I was against their modus operandi. Because before that match passed in Bamenda, we had meetings. I told them, look, going out on the street is ridiculous for a lawyer to wear a robe and march on the street. To me, let's go. Let's get into politics. Let's invade politics and be where they take decisions. If you're not where they take decisions, we only sit like this and be talking all the time. And you can, the way to arrive where they take decisions is do the politics. Join the political party. Become a parliamentarian. Become a senator. Why not? You can be a minister. You can be where they take decisions that affect the lives of people. It's until we can do that and understand that's the way to go. We will always stay in this quagmire of blame game, talking here and there, showing big book, showing how understand this, understand that. Meanwhile, this is some A, B, C, D thing. Go down to the grassroots, get the power of the people, and climb and help them back and give it back to them. Because when once the power of people support you, it is easy for you to give it back to them. You should learn to understand that there's constitutional authority. I will respect the constitutional authority until it is changed. I will not tolerate or accept that an Anglophone prime minister takes a decision, invites a meeting, and other Anglophones say it's not enough. Which we attend the day you become prime minister, right? You do it. But be ready that if you want to criticize people, you criticize others. Don't talk because you don't have the ambition of becoming something. Always say, okay, if you think that this man cannot do it, I have to do everything to take that place to do it better. And if you have that type of mindset, that's why things will change and with us Anglophones. Have you anybody ever imagined that, okay, if Frundi decided in the 90s that, look, I'm not going for Cameroon, but I'm representing Anglophones. Do you know that today is a spokesman of Anglophone? Do you know that? Is that true? But because go on dispersed ranks, we don't like to sit down and accept authority. Everybody wants to be one. Everybody thinks that I should be the one. We can't go nowhere with that. Nowhere. We have crises, we have problems. We are talking. At times we shout at each other. But at the end of the day, we should sit down and face the reality. If you want to be president of the country, you must be, as the president said, you must be capable of lobbying. I was very cruel about it, but it's like chop chair. No father will allow a chop chair, a child that he doesn't like. It is in our tradition. What you like it is like that. You always put a chop chair that you come and outright say you want to fight for the problem, you go nowhere. Because you don't have what he has or what it takes to be where he is. He knows why he's there. But now he's there. Or you want to challenge him, you want to fight him. Okay, try.
Okay. Someone writing from Germany, it says he has a question for you. It's asking you whether Ambe is fighting for you, Dr. Achu.
What do you call Ambe?
Fighters.
Yeah, when you talk of Ambe belongs to other groups. I don't think I represent one of those leaders.
Okay.
I want just get a clarification. I have said the Anglophone crisis started from somewhere and is still going to somewhere. Even what you call Ambe yesterday might not be what is today. Okay. People keep on forming groups.
I wanted to get that clarification so that some people out there do not carry some funny ideas. We are talking about solving this problem. The second topic, we're supposed to discuss a second topic, which definitely is going to be discussed tomorrow. We are tomorrow going to be asking who this crisis is benefiting. Is it me? Is it you, Dr. Ndimancho? Is it you, Barrister Achu?
Me?
They are benefiting.
Yeah, we are going to be looking
no. I want to we should be honest. We should be honest. So let him for answer. The first time, no, I just want to mean, you said something. For the first time, the CPDM party outclassed in the Northwest. For the first time. Outclassed after 1992.
Even in the Southwest.
Mostly in the Southwest. It is times crisis that the roots of the CPDM, even representative with that, now represent the people.
By saying that some people became senators with 24 votes.
Good. Because people decided on the politics empty seat. It's empty seat politics that is killing people. You know what to accept it.
Let Dr. come in.
Without even letting Mr. Leo know that, remind him that Barrister insulted him here 3 times. But I've left that is an elder brother saying that.
Doctor, let me say something. Let me say something. I knew that after we fix things.
Okay. But once that again.
No, in my elder brother, I saw it all the time. I accept it.
I knew that this.
Okay, let me come to your question. But it is true. I just want to quote in from where Dr. K started. And parties were not in a village. No party stood. The CPDM stood, and they had a person. How did it go about it? I mean, the Ambe only knows. No, listen. The Ambe, they know. Listen, the things are Republican, refusing everything about election and everything. Is it only the CPDM that are accepting the question? Now I come back to I come back to my statement to say that the CPDMs are negotiators and they know how they are getting into. And it's not a strength of anything. It's not a strength. What I'm saying is, the CPDM actually benefited more than this, and we really need to know why they have benefited, because they are supposed to be the people that drive away from Northwest and Southwest. I'm not one of them, because I know their doctrine. Their doctrine was that they didn't want to hear anything like Republic. And CPDM is a product of Republic.
No, right? It's a Bamenda-based party.
No, and secondly, I've realized that there are some people who have made them in this Anglophone crisis. You know, so have stood somewhere. We even it's over there. The real people, terrorists behind, are not even those who are up there. They are those who are abroad and who are making a lot of money. We have had many of these guys run away and gone to the DDR because they said they have to go and kidnap them, to go and do two things. They gather money, but they don't know the money is being used. It means that there are some few individuals who are benefiting from this money. So we actually know that it's not actually even a 0.5% of the Anglophones who are benefiting from this war. And that is why we are our vote. Even though some people say Manjongs, I don't know what they mean Manjongs, but we are saying that this should stop. That there are few people, and the first people that we are supposed to actually investigate. There are people who they even went out more destitute and more destitute than even when times were good. Why? But we should begin to ask questions.
He supported SDF.
That
was a mistake. Was a blunder. Political blunder. That's why I'm saying that I respect USDP. But I told him that was a mistake.
Okay. I want to say that, you know, just like I always quote everybody here, because I think that I represent the views of everybody here as a future leader of this country. We must understand something. Politics is not academics, like Barrister said. And, you know, there are certain things that you see only when you are in the field and when you are discussing with people. The practicality of politics is away from this discussion that we are always on the media and talking. USDP was the most influential young political party in Cameroon before the crisis began. You are a witness. You are a witness. You are a witness. You are a witness. People like even Sako Ikome was writing about the USDP back then. Tanku, Tapang Ivo Tanku was writing about USDP. Mark Barretta was writing about USDP. All of them were always having something to comment about the strength. As a matter of fact, I want to give this example. One of my aunts traveled from Cameroon to the US. It was in the US she went and heard about my name in politics. And she came out to Cameroon and said, "Are you in politics?" I said, "Yes, auntie." He said, "And I don't know, and I'm here in Cameroon." He said, "We were talking in a house, some people were there, and some boys started talking about Prince Ekoso, USDP party, the next president of Cameroon." So what I want to say is this. The issue of not going for parliamentary elections or not getting councils and all of that in 2020 is as a result of the aftermath of the crisis. And the crisis, who are those benefiting from it? You said it's the CPDMs. And there's nobody who's going to deny that fact.
Nobody.
Because there are CPDM people who became senators with 24 votes.
Appointments. The ministries are occupied by them.
So when you say senators, that you don't expect me to go and meet a CPDM member and tell the CPDM member, or to go and join like the is it G24 or
G35, G20.
For me to go and join G35, for me to get money to go and run, it's ridiculous for me in politics. Okay. So that is why I believe that the strategy that USDP has used this far is the best.
Okay.
We have stood our grounds. We have not compromised, even though some people feel that we are eating with Mr. Bia in Yaoundé. But the truth is this: if I want to eat, I will eat.
Okay.
And if I don't want to eat, it's because I am thinking about posterity, and I'm thinking about people, intellectuals like Ndimancho and Dr. Achu, who are very, very close to USDP philosophy than even the other things that we are talking about here.
Okay, they should join. Good evening.
They are there.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Leo. I always like to see Barrister in your programs because he is of the CPDM. Okay, Barrister, they say they always want to see you on this platform. We hope you're going to be there. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Please greet Mr. Achu for me. Give him a good handshake. This is Lum writing from Bomenda. Please tell him to calm down, okay? Calm down. So many messages actually saying that I should greet you, but certainly you have...
Give him the handshake now. I'm not giving the handshake.
Okay. Yes, we have come to the end of today's edition of the program. We are 5 minutes late. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine, once always. As far as Cameroon is concerned, we stay focused that the new Cameroon will be the federal system of government with every region electing its administrators.
You're also a federalist?
A federalist, yes.
Okay, I did not know. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me with this rich panel. All I can say, at least, a gun never solves a problem but creates more problems. Let's go back to our politics. Let's go back to our roots. Because the Anglophone system was known for its democratic way of doing things by politics. You want to be a decider in this country, don't use the politics of empty seat. Whenever the elections, go for it. Go for it. Don't say there's police or there's whatever, we are being discouraged. Do everything to participate. It's only through that means that we're going to succeed. That we're going to calm this out. That we're going to get a level playing ground. If we don't do that, we'll sit in the bushes and are fighting our own people. We'll never go anywhere.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard, Senior Barrister. Today, Senior Barrister is actually fasting. This is a Ramadan period. You know, he's a Muslim. So he's going to be away for a month. But I will tell him that you sent greetings. Thank you for coming, Doctor.
Thanks so much, Mr. Leo. Wish to apologize to the audience for the heated debate. Of course, we want to pass across the point. And if somebody thinks that I need to belong to a political party, then I would think about receiving a hand of extension from some of these people. Somebody just wrote to me this afternoon, talk about building the Third Republic, and he's somebody from the SDF, of course. They are luring me, I must say this. My brother here is with me. I've been working with him. So if I must join a political party to make my voice heard, there's no problem. All we want is to fix Cameroon. Yes, but know that there is always that silent majorities, and we of the civil society, we know the way we go our way. Everybody must not be do partisan politics. He is here, I can contribute whatever I have to contribute, and the party will go forward. So sometimes the real person with the ugly head is usually in the bush, and you never know. So thanks so much for inviting me.
Thank you to President Ekoso for coming all the way from Yaoundé to be part of this edition of the program.
Yes, Leo, thank you once again, and it's a great pleasure. I want to congratulate my fellow panelists who are very, very rich, level-headed people, and I'm happy that all of them are Anglophones. And I'm happy that I am privileged to sit on this panel as the only Anglophone political party leader, whom I am soliciting that they should join me to be able to push the agenda for an Anglophone president. Okay. Thank you very much.
We also want to say thank you to you, Carlson, who came in from Yaoundé, the nation's capital, as well as for Richard, who came in from the United States of America. We want to thank all of you guys who took time off to watch the program, the production team. Not forgetting you, Tambe Bryant, supervising the work we do out here. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.